Hey, Internet, happy Thursday. What is going on? How are you guys doing this lovely Thursday? Throw in the comment section how you're doing. Throw in the comment section if you've been here and following along your favorite parts from day 1, 2, or 3. Just give us your favorite part. What's the most impactful thing that you've learned so far in our 3 days together that's got you smacking that serve, hopefully a whole lot harder?
That's right.
While we do that, you want to give a little teaser as to what day 4 is all about?
Yep, day 4. So we're talking about leading with the edge of the racket. We've been talking a lot about the racket drop and the elbow leading up to the ball. But now we're talking about the power loop and how it actually flips up to the ball because we've got to make some proper contact, right? So we're going to work on the contact point as well. The contact point is obviously everything. Good contact, good racket, and arm extension is what leads to pronation. And those are the big deliverables as far as coming to power. And lastly, a little cherry on top, we're going to talk about internal shoulder rotation. If you're a fan of Pete Sampras, you're going to love this. But for a lot, especially players that might be already playing at a pretty high level and they just can't figure out how to get a little more juice on their serve, internal shoulder rotation tends to be a big unlock.
For sure. Lots of important stuff to cover today. We'll do a recap of day 1 through 3. And also, if you just happen to stumble across this on the internet, we are in the middle of a 5-day add 15 miles per hour to your serve challenge. If you miss the first 3 days, lucky you. For just $49, you can go buy the recordings to all these. And have them know it's just $49, not even $99. Yeah, that's what I say, 99 cents, just like that. But all jokes aside, even if you've been with us the last 3 days, we keep plugging this because we really need you to have this in your bag. You need this workbook that we're going to go through. You need to print that thing out. You're going to want to rewatch this stuff more than just in real time. So if you haven't done this so far, please, pretty please, unless you hate puppies, go pick up the serve recordings to get the insurance for just $49. This stuff will actually stick. You're going to need to see this more than just once.
Man, hard sell out of
the gates. A hard sell right out of the gates. I'm going to go real quick and give them a quick recap of days 1 through 3. There's no way we can let you do that. Just quick.
But I'll van it for you.
There you go. Perfect. All right. Day 1, and you're going to notice that my explanations of days 1 and 2 are going to go a bit quicker because you've heard this a lot. Day 1, continental grip. It's not just your index knuckle. It is also the heel pad that needs to be on level 2. The drill for that is downs with the blade of your racket instead of the strings of your racket.
Edge. My blade means edge.
Edge. That's what I said. Serve stance. There's no drill here. You just need to stand like this. Your toe needs to line up. Your back toe needs to line up with your front heel. If you were to draw a line from toe to toe, it is going to point towards the side post on the net. And moving on to the Tony box drill, this is more about understanding how to get into rear pelvic tilt, which is really where you're going to generate all of your power from in addition to rotation. So we're learning to keep that left arm, if you're right-handed, you're tossing arm up longer to get into that rear pelvic tilt. We talked about where to throw the ball and how to throw the ball. Don't bend your elbow. Don't bend your wrist. Don't hold the ball in the palm of your hand. Hold it in your fingertips. Release at eye level. Release at 1 o'clock and extend it out into the court 6 to 8 inches depending on height and arm length. Then we got into day 2. We talked about the right to left drill, which is where you're going to hold the racket, pardon me, sir, with a passive wrist and salute with your racket, and this prevents you from flopping back into waiter's tray, which is one of the biggest thieves of power on your serve. We then talked about how we don't want you placing your racket down your back. We want you to think about firing your elbow up, and that when your elbow goes up, your racket, as you see here, will go down. Then we got into the idea of how to get our feet involved, which is the pulse-up drill. We talked about thinking as if your racket weighs 50 pounds and you're not strong enough to pull it up with just your arm. You've got to activate that back foot. That back foot. Activate that back foot to slingshot that racket. And then we got into day 3 yesterday. Talked about a simple drill for you to really understand and figure out rhythm. And the way that we do that is we're going to grab a sock. It's got to be long, at least shin high, so it can fit 2 to 3 tennis balls in it. And you're going to get comfortable swinging this sock around and thinking about activating it again with the pulse-up drill with your feet. We then talked about how important it is to not have tension in your hand. Where is my trusty tennis racket, Nate? She's gone forever.
Where is
I'll grab another one. You just throw my racket away?
Want to lie feed about tennis? I'm a tennis racket. Here he comes.
And we're back. We talked about how tension in your hand can prevent that racket drop, and that relieving the tension in your bottom two fingers lets that elbow fly up and that racket fall down your back into the racket drop. And then we talked about how to sync up what you were doing with the ball and the sock drill, as well as the 3-finger drill, into the figure 8 drill to really understand what a smooth, rhythmic serve should feel like. Mic drop, day 4. Let's get it.
All right.
Alan Gibson, yes, this is the day 4 link. You're in the right place, my dude.
All right, so day 4, the first thing we're going to talk about is leading with the edge of the racket. We call this the kin to heart drill because Kin to Heart created it. It's a really good exercise. We were at Tennis Congress, amazing event where they pull a lot of pros together. We had the honor of working with Emilio Sanchez, Gigi Fernandez, a host of other players, Paul Anico. But Kin was on the court next to me, and he was teaching a beginner how, not a beginner, that's the wrong terminology,
An experienced rec player.
An experienced rec player, somebody that was early in the game, about how to lead with the edge. And I was like, this is a great drill. So we asked him if we could use it, and he was kind of to say yes. So
Did you ask him?
after we used it, yeah.
Thanks, Ken.
No, we've talked. Ken's a great dude. All right, so from there, let's talk about what the actual drill is. So the big piece what we're talking about with leading with the edge is, well, let me show you first. Let me just back up. I apologize. Let me just back up for a moment.
Got ahead of yourself.
I did. I got really excited. But I think sometimes when we show it to you, it's a little bit easier to get it as far as from a full service motion is what I'm referencing before the exercise. So let's just pull up Sebastian Corda here. So when we talk about leading with the edge, what you'll notice is in the racket drop, the racket face is facing his lower back, right? But in order for the racket to flip and then be facing the ball flush, the racket has to get on edge. And here's the elbow drives up right here. I know it's going to be a little bit tough to see. That's the edge of the racket. I'll enlarge that so you can see it. That's the edge of the racket. So you're driving the edge of the racket up, and then what's going to happen is as it flips, it'll become more flush with the ball. Now, he's putting a pretty good amount of slice here, so it's not entirely flush, but you get the general idea. All right, so now let's talk about the exercise. Give me 1 second here. Voila. So in order to learn to do this, it's kind of a funky exercise, right? You're basically going to hit the ball off the edge of the racket, not the strings, the edge of the racket. And so it'll look like this. You don't want to toss super high here. It is a little bit of a tough drill, and I do recommend that you maybe don't have someone in the court next to you when you're doing this.
The ball's definitely going to fly to the right pretty hard, or left if you're left-handed.
That's right. Now, what you want to make sure you do is as this racket comes through, you really want to just hold the finish. You can see that I'm doing it here. I'm not allowing any kind of follow through. I'm just hitting the ball off the edge of the racket and allowing the ball to work off the edge towards this side of the ball. And it's making a racket, man. I mean, it's knocking down
making
blocks and just like not like a tennis racket. Yeah, making a racket. You get it. All right, so
we just lost 13 viewers of a one pun.
Actually, wasn't intentional, but hey, here we go. So what this led to, and this is definitely for our beginners, but let me clarify, this isn't beginner instruction. This is just if you're learning to hit a serve, this is the most simplified way. But on a high level serve, if you're like, hey, Nate, Scott, I've got the elbow leading up to the ball. I just don't know how to get everything to come around. This is the exercise. So now when you're really focused on leading with the edge, you can see there from the racket drop. From here, I'm going to do the same exercise, and I'm going to allow my racket, let me minimize here, that's my racket head right there, lost in the lights. And I'm going to allow it all to drive to the right, and it creates slice, right? So as you watch this play through, You can see the slice serve. Now I want you to watch something. Notice after, and it was all these demonstrations. Watch what I'm doing with my hand here. See how I'm shaking the racket? I'm just staying loose. I wasn't conscious. That's me actually trying to just keep everything loose. I think that's a good idea for you as well. But this is the exercise. All right, first hit the ball off the racket, off the edge of the racket, and then get to where you're just slightly opening the palm to produce slice. So if I was hitting the ball with the edge, as I'm driving up, I'm going edge. Now as my racket is going up, I'm just ever so slightly learning to pronate and opening the face of the racket. And when you do that, you get a slice serve, right?
It's bonus tip for you. Lots of power in this challenge, but hey, if you weren't really sure what a slice serve looks like, it's the exact same technique we talked about days 1 through 3, but you approach the ball ever so slightly differently.
Yep, you got it. All right, so that brings us to the next exercise.
Exercicio dos.
Boom.
They trap the ball drill. You or me?
Hop into it.
All right. So the trap the ball drill is really understanding where you need to reach up to contact. Also, I'm getting a lot of questions in the feed here. For those of you who have not done this for the first 3 days, the way we do this is we deliver all the instruction, and then we just run through any questions that you have. So any questions that you have, days 1 through 3, drop them in the comments. We promise we'll get to you, and we're not ignoring you, I promise. So yes, this exercise is all about understanding contact point, meaning what your dominant arm is supposed to be doing when you make contact with the ball, how high, how low. What we're looking for as coaches, we've talked a lot about a 1 o'clock toss, so spoiler alert, contact should be at 1 o'clock. But the question is kind of how high. Should my arm be fully extended? How high should I throw my toss? This drill answers all of that for you, and it sort of lie detects whether what you got going on is correct or not. So the drill, and we're doing this on a soft curtain. If you're athletic and can really time it, you can do it on like a chain link fence or like the type of fence that's normally on like an outdoor tennis court. Soft surface is better. We don't want you doing this on a brick wall and scraping up your racket, but find a surface. The goal is to toss the ball up at 1 o'clock along the flat surface and then clamp the ball, as you see Nate doing right here, on the surface, and then pause in your clamped motion and just sort of do a power-up check. Is everything doing what we want it to do? Am I at full extension, or is my arm bent? I'm down here. Do I feel a pull in my dominant side oblique? If I do, I know I'm fully extending up to the ball. And then also, am I waiting for that ball to come way down before I clamp it, then my toss is too high? So this is just going to be a great visual for you guys to kind of go out there and just see, is everything kind of doing what it's supposed to be doing?
So we'll show you the exercise now, and then I'll give you a couple alternatives, because if you're like, well, doing this against a chain link fence isn't ideal. I don't have a curtain to operate on. We'll give you a couple other ideas here. So the trap the ball drill, you'll watch that as the arm extends all the way up the curtain. And here's the thing, like, you don't want to bounce the ball off the chain link fence or the curtain. So you've got to kind of guide it all the way up. But I think this does a good job of also reinforcing getting your arm up to some degree. You got to let go a little bit earlier than I'd like. But from here, as the racket flips, right there, you can see the racket on edge. So this is what we just talked about with the racket being on edge. That's the edge of the racket. So now it has to flip and then trap the ball. And give this a few tries. Like, ideally, the arm is going to be higher than what you see here. So keep working with it until you feel that you're getting better extension. So here you can see I tossed a little bit higher and then forced a better racket drop, find a little bit better contact point. All right. So this is an exercise that you want to do if you have access to a curtain to really work on swinging up to the ball. Otherwise, here are the things that you can do. If you go out to your tennis court and you back all the way up behind the baseline, like 12 feet, get as far away from the baseline as you can to hit, without hitting the back fence or curtain behind you. And then just focus on swinging up and holding that position, holding the position like you see here, and learn on swinging up. Because a big piece of this drill is about learning to swing up. It doesn't matter unless you're 6'7" or taller. Every serve is swung up. If my hand is the racket, as I swing to the ball, every single time it's going to swing up to the ball. The only exception is 6'7" above. to where it starts working a little bit more towards the forehead.
Can I provide a little clarity there? Because I think this really confuses the crap out of people. I think most of our students are like, I'm supposed to swing up to the ball. Won't that just launch the ball straight up in the sky? Think about a roller coaster where your swing path is coming up the roller coaster, and at contact is the very tippy top of that roller coaster right before you fall in to the steep drop. So we're not saying you're hitting the ball on your way up the roller coaster. Contact happens at the top, but you're swinging up towards the top into contact and then coming over. So you hear a lot of coaches talk about pronation. Pronation is actually just the result of your racket traveling in the right path. Like your arm is going to run out of places to go, and that wrist will have to break, creating pronation if you're swinging up correctly towards the ball. You shouldn't have to think about this wrist snap. It just happens.
Yeah, we hear a lot too. Well, why does the follow through matter? You know, why the ball is electric strings? Why does it matter? And it's like every millisecond of the way the racket travels, it is going to affect the way that the ball the racket interacts with the ball and the way that it brushes the surface area. So obviously, 100% matters. So the other thing that I love to do with students is, if you're back on the baseline and you want to work on proper contact, catch the opposing fence, right? So you're on your baseline from the side. Here's the net, and then you want to swing. You want to make sure that you're serving all the way to the back fence and try to get it in the air. Try to get the fence in the air. In order to do this, you're going to have to swing up and you're going to have to hold contact. It's a really good way to reinforce the proper contact that you're looking for. All right. So now let's talk about internal shoulder rotation.
Guys, again, if you've got questions, drop them in the chat. We're not ignoring you. I promise we'll get to them. This stuff can be complicated for sure. And a lot of the stuff we cover, particularly in day 2 and day 3, you got questions. Don't be shy. We're here for it. Corey, I see you. I'll answer you first.
So internal shoulder rotation, we use what we like to call the thumb down drill. Now, I will give you the disclaimer. If you are just starting to figure out the right to left, leading with the elbow, the pulse up, this is the least important that you're going to pay attention to, because you really need to focus on those fundamentals before you get to this stage.
It's the grand finale.
No, we got another day.
No, but I mean, this is the grand finale.
If
you didn't get this right, you can still sit around.
Yeah. Well, as I prefaced before we went into going to today's instruction, if you were, already have a pretty good serve and you're like, man, I just need some juice and I need a little more accuracy and I need some consistency, this may be the answer. So the thumbs down drill is all about getting your arm to operate internally, out away from the body, and then keeping the elbow up. So here is the exercise that we'd like you to focus on. So here you can see I'm going through my service motion. I always think it's important here. You can see I'm already starting with the right to left. Oh, sorry, I haven't switched over.
I'm doing a bad job of co-hosting.
There I am.
Sorry, I'm over here just listening and looking mindlessly.
You're the worst. So here I'm in the right to left, working towards the power position. You can see my eyes go up, the hand goes up. So I'm shadowing everything without the racket. And now from here, as I swing up, there's the elbow leading up to the ball, and the hand comes around. That is where we would see contact. See the hand right there facing forward. And now, because of pronation, the palm is then going to start working out towards 45. Now, pronation. Should we actively be trying to pronate on the serve? No. This is pronation.
My spoiler alerted. That's my bad.
Yeah.
Give everybody all your secrets in the previous exercise.
But so the main thing here is with pronation is that if your arm gets to full extension, you're going to pronate, right? It's going to be, unless you're like really swinging across the body, it's going to be really difficult to supinate. So if you can't swing away from your body, make contact with your arm fully extended, you're going to pronate. Now the thumbs down drill is this. As you come back through, notice how my thumb is facing down. This is like Game of Thrones here. Finish him. That is what we're thinking.
He dies.
Yeah.
Isn't that Gladiator?
I think it's pretty much every movie, man.
Every movie.
Anybody fighting. Yeah. All right. So now here, if you're having a hard time with this and you're like, I'm just really struggling putting this all together. A big shout out to our buddy Ian Westerman at Essential Tennis. He came up with this, and I thought this was a great way to explain what's happening.
He's usually in here watching and heckling. I haven't heard anything from him in this particular live stream.
It's a busy time here.
Sad day.
So what he likes to tell students is palm out, palm in, and palm out. And because I'm confined, I can't show you. What I'll show you here on the screen is the palm faces out as the elbow drives up. Right there, the palm faces in. And then as I swing out, again, the palm finishes out. I'll zero in on that. All right, so as I back up, just highlight these.
I have to show it. It just
So
makes me
palm
smile
out.
every time. Sorry. This is the ADHD and
Palm in.
instruction. Just say what's up to be a man, right? I love that.
All right, so palm out, palm in, palm out. Okay. I think it's a good exercise to just kind of, if you're in your office right now, you're at home, it's a good way to really just focus on getting this movement and figuring out what it feels
Do
like.
it visually for him here again, just slow, just recap, but not on camera with your real human body. I guess we can show your.
You talking about the video or you talking about me?
I'm just saying, show him right here. You can show him here. It's fine.
I just did.
Show him again.
All right, so palm out.
It's like palm in, palm out, palm out. You just make it quick.
Palm out. And then from here, palm in, right? The palm is going to start facing your head. And then as you extend up, as I get short, as you work all the way out, the palm will then be out again. So out and out. All right, so here is a really fun exercise. This is part 2 of this thumbs down exercise. And if you've ever wanted to hit an overhead over your opponent's back fence, this is how you do it. It's not about power. It's about internal shoulder rotation. It's about making contact. And this is the one time that you can make contact a little bit more top of the ball.
The nursery rhyme, little rabbit foo-foo.
Yeah, I didn't.
Comment in the comments. So this is like a heated area of debate for Nate and I when we coach in real life. Comment if you're familiar with the nursery rhyme. It's either little rabbit or little bunny foo-foo. Just say I am or I am not. We're going to take a real life poll right now.
I am or I am not what?
Familiar with the nursery rhyme?
Oh,
little
yeah.
rabbit foo-foo. It's a little rabbit or little bunny.
I don't know. I was
Google it.
I was familiar with it. I just had no idea.
I am Stacy. Bang! Right out of the gates. No more responses. It's 100% acknowledgement rate.
Yeah, of course it's
Little bunny foo-foo. Yes, it's little bunny foo-foo. Look at this, man. We need to talk to your parents.
I barely said I had no idea. It was so gruesome.
Nate had like a reasonably decent upbringing, and I guess the nursery rhymes were part of it. That's why he's so hard.
Parents kept me away from that one.
So now that everyone is in fact familiar with little bunny foo-foo running through the forest,
hopping down that ice trail,
bopping him on the head. Bopping him on the head is what we're talking about with internal shoulder rotations.
Got to be a better analogy, but
no,
yeah,
let's go on. That is Heather knows. Look at it. Alan knows. Lillian knows. Heather knows. How does it feel to be the only person on earth not familiar with little bunny foo-foo?
I'm familiar with it.
Hopping through the forest, skipping up the field mice, and right here, Stacy, you're my spirit. You're my spirit friend.
Yeah, that's awful.
It's the
Who
wrong.
made these things up?
I don't know. Why are you so obsessed with field mice and fair treatment of field mice?
Yeah. So let's talk about bopping these mice in the head again.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry.
So here's the drill.
The biggest tangent in our 4 days together.
So you toss the ball up. You'll notice here, I'm not worried about getting super high on the toss because I'm not trying to hit it on the nose. I'm actually trying to get more
on the head?
On top. Right? I'm trying to bop it on the head.
Right on the head, just like those little field mice.
And now this is the piece that you really want to pay attention to. So here, my thumb has to be down because of the orientation of the racket and the hand. But what you'll also notice is that my arm stays up at the elbow. So as you're hitting, you want to make sure as you make that contact that the elbow stays up and then the racket comes through. So
show us some samples.
I might be a little up.
Hey,
I'm not like swinging super hard.
Zoom way in. It's not just where the ball goes, it's to see. Your body.
You're every day. But the key here is keeping the elbow up and allowing that thumb to face down. So let's take a look at it on an actual serve. Let's get out of here. Hold, please.
Let's
check out
popping him on the head.
Yeah, let's check out Wawrinka. You know, we were talking about him a little bit.
You're not going to give us Sampras for the superhuman?
It's not a great video.
Well, because Sampras hasn't been on tour since great videos.
It was the Wawrinka video. All right, here we go. Front view of Novak.
You really just want to show us Sampras no matter how many times I ask, will it, folks? Smash the like button if you just want to see Sampras.
I'll show you. All right, so here's what we're talking about. So at contact, we see the arm fully extended. Let me zoom way in on this. So coming to contact, we see the arm extended all the way up. And this is important because this is what I was talking about the other day. If you're making contact anywhere near 12 o'clock, you're going to see the shoulders more in this position with the head tilted, all right? Because you never want to be here. You're going to end up in a ton of issues with your arm. But as the racket comes through, there's pronation because you can see that the racket is now facing at 45 degrees. And then here is internal shoulder rotation right here. So you can see that the elbow stays up and the racket tip is down. All right, so it's coming through this way and then it comes through. So I think a lot of times, especially if you have issues with like creating too much slice or just wildly be out of control, not having the consistency, if you're swinging too much across your body, a great exercise is putting this internal shoulder rotation to play, because now this is teaching you that as you swing, you're swinging away from your body, as we saw with Djokovic. I'll show you Sampras.
Give the people what they want. This guy's got a superhuman rotator cuff. Probably don't do this, but
probably
I'm going to show you anyway.
But yeah, this is what we always think of with Pete, right? Like as he comes through.
Check how this elbow just hangs up in the air. I mean,
right? It's not an amazing video, but you can see here how high that elbow stays as the racket comes down.
Still up.
So every pro does it. It's just he just really exaggerated it. We happen to be probably the best server of all time. Yeah. I know we did a video on like a next gen serve, like the Ben Sheltons of the world versus Sampras. And I was like, you think Ben Shelton's better than Sampras? Sampras is the best all time server, like outside of the serve box.
Yeah, there's more to it.
It was accurate, the best. I mean, like the dude's numero uno. If you take probably the John Isners out of that equation. All right, and that is day 4. Shall we open the field?
Yeah, we'll open up the floor for questions. I'll do a quick recap while you guys are getting all your thoughts together and typing them in, because we are on a slight delay. If you could bring the work, you know what? I can do it for you. You do it Thursday. That could be nice. Shebang-a-lang-lang. Exercise 1, we talked about the Ken DeHart drill, and this is where we're just trying to get you to understand that we want your racket, the blade edge, the edge of your racket to be tracking towards the ball, and then at the last second, we're going to be snapping our wrist. So this drill is just getting you comfortable hitting the ball with the edge of your racket so you feel what tomahawking up towards the ball feels like. And then, of course, when we get this into play, we're actually going to end up rotating that wrist, or hand rather, to create flat contact. This is also how you learn how to hit a slice serve, potentially for the first time if you've never heard that instruction before. In exercise 2, we talked about trapping the ball. This is really straightforward. This is just a great drill for you to sort of lie detector test if your toss is at the right height, if you're reaching up, making contact where you want. And we said here, as showcased, we really don't want you to toss the ball a whole lot higher than you can reach. We really like to see your dominant, your tossing side oblique, really kind of stretching. You can see here, Nate's shirt's even pulling up a little bit here because he's stretched to full extension. This is what good looks like. Then we did get in to exercise 3, which is the thumb down drill. And this is the beginning of us starting to understand this internal shoulder rotation. The idea here is that after you hit, we want that thumb to turn down. If you just think about this without your racket, where I'm going to get down here, when you're following through, turning your thumb then put the racket in your hand. That's what we want to have happening when you're following through on your serve. And then lastly, that was actually it. Was that it? We talked about the spiking. It's not in the workbook.
What's up?
The spiking balls over the fence.
That's part of this with the thumb down drill.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's just something to add on to it.
Got it. Okay, got me all confused. So the last part we talked about is this thumb down drill and this internal shoulder rotation is also, in fact, how you spike balls over the fence.
That's right.
Like a beast when you're up there at the net. Hitting overheads. Shall we jump into some questions, my dude?
Let's get it.
All right.
Yeah, got a lot of them.
Let's see.
When you think that we're maybe skipping your question, some of these are the same, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah. Well,
hopefully we answer your question one way or another.
Stacy, thank you for the kind words.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Lamb, I saw this comment come up, I believe, when we were talking about the thumb down drill. So it seems similar to throwing a football a la Tom Brady, like the idea of coming up the roller coaster, finishing at the top, and then releasing. So I would agree. I don't have a whole lot else to say. The answer to that question is yes.
Yeah, just remember you're throwing the bomb, right? You're not throwing a short target where you're on a heater or putting it on a line. Like this is a Hail Mary. You're going end zone on this. The throwing motion is way more upward than it is out. And that's why like kind of the pitching analogy always gets lost. Yes, there's some similarities, but you're never throwing linear, right? Like you're going up and then out.
All right. Casey, some kind words and talking some positive things about our good buddy Ken DeHart. Great videos. We appreciate you. Thank you. I asked a lot of you if you're familiar with Little Bunny Foo-Foo, and I just want everybody to get a good sense of just how great this is. Stacy was sure. Lamb was sure. I don't have to go through all these. I just want to make Nate feel dumb here. So many people.
Nancy says, please stop wasting my time, Scott.
No, there is no Nancy, and that's completely made up.
Oh, man.
You got me tricked there for a second. All right. Little Bunny Foo-Foo aside, let's get into some questions. Kathy says, why do I hit my left leg on my follow-through? I'm going to assume Kathy is right-handed. If you don't snap that thumb down, that can be one reason. If you snap it down too hard, that can be another reason. Do you want to provide some?
This is almost always the culprit of getting too much across your body, right? So as your racket's coming through, just to what Scott was saying, if you're not swinging away to where you're not getting the palm out, a lot of times, even if it's just kind of subtle, but everything is internally coming in, you swing across your body and it catches the shin, right? I've seen it a million times, and especially in lessons where somebody hits their shin, and it's almost a culprit of swinging across the body instead of swinging away from the body. That's it.
It's true. Okay. Just waiting for you to stop yapping. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
It's Thursday. We're like, we've been around each other a little too much.
Yeah. We're having dinner Saturday, then. Probably good. All right. So our wives like each other, so that's cool. All right. So David says, this is not really related to the serve, but David, we appreciate you being here, so we're going to answer this anyway. Hitting an overhead on a moon ball, what position should you be in waiting for the ball? You or me?
I'll do it quickly. So I know you're concerned.
That's not true.
So one, when you're getting a moon ball, the hardest thing to do in tennis is hit an overhead moving forward. Hardest thing to do, unless we're talking about like some kind of ridiculous tweener or something like that, right? But assuming that you're already moving in, you get a lob. At this point, if you're hitting it overhead, you really want to be in a position that your hand has the ability to be stretched completely out and you're slightly under the ball. Because if your hand drops and your hand is like this, you're going to swing and make contact on top of the ball, and that ball is going to go into the net. All right. So what we do with our kids that we're working with, the academy kids, like we throw up a lob, they have to catch it, and then they hit a serve. And then we start going live where we throw up a lob, and then they position themselves like they're going to catch the ball, and then they hit a serve.
It's good coaching.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long-winded either.
It was reasonable. Showed some restraint there.
I appreciate that. So does the internet. Heather would like to know, how much time a day do you recommend to practice your serve? So,
great question.
All of it, if you have it. I mean, listen. So the more reps, the better, right? I know you think the 10,000 hour rule has been debunked, but the more reps you put on this, obviously, the better it's going to get. One thing I will say, though, and this is cliche, so get excited. This will be fun. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So if you go out there and you put in a lot of reps of the wrong thing, you're actually getting worse. So just make sure that you've got a tool. Hopefully, it's our $49 serve challenge workbook that's in your bag. But get the phone out there and make sure you're recording what you're doing. I would say quality over quantity is going to be a lot more important here. And sort of the thesis behind this serve challenge that's worked for tons of players is if you just go out there and practice the 2 or 3 exercises we're giving you each day here for 30 minutes, it gets a lot better quickly. Yeah. Right? So it doesn't take the volume, it takes the right information and the quality of reps.
For sure. Yeah, and it's you definitely don't want to overdo it either, right? Like when you go, you should never serve more than an hour. I think 30 minutes is always pretty good. When we do our serve workshop, it's a 3-hour clinic, but we're really taking time to work through each of these progressions. Sometimes you're not hitting a ball at all. Sometimes that you are. You've got to give it time because like shoulder issues, tennis elbow, these are overuse injuries. So if you're going out there and you're doing it every single day for 3 hours, you're going to hurt yourself. So get out there, 4 or 5 times a week, put in at least 30 minutes on those days. But keep repetition, week after week after week.
True that. Ricardo would like to know, is the slice serve when you don't pronate as much or barely any pronation? And the answer to that is yes, right? Yeah. I mean, the slice serve, rocks in my mouth, is basically when you're chopping along the side of the ball. I think that's like the myth. I mean, you are coming at the ball in the tomahawk motion, but you are still going to pronate a little bit even when you hit a slice serve.
Well, there's two. So there's continued pronation and there's discontinued pronation. And this is true even on the tour. So to what Scott's saying, some players just keep the strings pretty straight throughout the motion and they don't pronate. And then some players do. They actually make contact around 5 o'clock. Looks like they're cutting the ear off the ball, but the contact is more around 5 o'clock. And then as the arm comes through, they pronate. So both are true. You can have continued pronation or discontinued pronation. They're both right.
There you have it. Ricardo, hopefully that helps. Roy, but to get to the ball, racket drops as you are pushing up with the legs. Then you have to also rotate your upper body shoulders into the hitting zone, correct? I'm going to take this one.
Yep.
So I can do it really quickly. Yes, but we don't want you to think about doing that. So you shouldn't be thinking about rotating your hips, rotating your shoulders. I like to do the opposite, where I like to have my students think about holding their hip back as long as they can. And then that activation where we started to talk about like the racket being heavy, thinking about pulling that through, like holding, the longer you can hold your hips closed, the more power and rotation you're going to get from this axis. Similar concept with the rear pelvic tilt. The longer you hold that left arm up in the air, the more tilt, the more sort of somersault type cartwheel power you're going to unleash in that direction. So yes, but don't think about it that way. Think about the racket leading and holding everything closed as long as you can and then unleashing all that power as late as you can.
Yep, that's good. I agree. I approve of your instruction.
Hey, thanks, Dad. All right. Edward says, hello, I have had 2 rotator cuff surgeries. Oh, no. On my right shoulder, and thus my strength is not what it had been before. What would be the recommended weight of, what is that?
I've never seen somebody.
Did you just make, how did that even happen?
That's all. I think somebody.
Can they see that?
I don't know.
Now I'm just curious. Comment, what is happening? Comment below if you can see this random thumb jumping up on our faces. That is bizarre. All right, sorry.
I think that's somebody liking the reply or liking the answer.
It's never showed up on our face like that.
Cool.
Right? I'll take it.
I'm going to cover your face too.
Cool. Sorry, Edward. We got a bit distracted. What would be the recommended weight of my racket to deal best with this weakness? Really enjoy your lesson. So I think I talked about this briefly on day 1. If you want more power from your racket, you want more weight in the racket head. Right? So if you're feeling weaker and you want the power source to come from your racket, you're going to lean towards more of a head-heavy solution. A lot of this is going to depend on how big you are, how strong you are. Like your weak could be stronger than Nate's strong. We don't know. So it's going to be personal preference, but as a general guideline, If you need more oomph from the racket, it's going to come from more weight in the head.
I'd be curious, like, what is happening with the shoulder that's causing these injuries, and if it's from tennis.
Technique.
Yeah, really putting some time into getting the proper technique. The proper technique is significantly more important than your equipment. And then making sure that you're strengthening your rotator cuff with some band work and all that stuff continuous. Because even after surgery, you've got to stay with that stuff. I've had shoulder issues. So speaking from experience, and you got to. This is a little bit of experimentation. To Scott's point, like heavy rackets help some, and some it doesn't. Right? Like I wouldn't go over anything that was like 10.6, 10.8 or an overall weight. But you're just going to have to kind of play with it to figure it out. Every shoulder injury is a little bit different. I went lighter on my racket. I was playing with a plus 12-ounce racket, strong, and it ended up being too much for what was happening with my shoulder. I've dropped down to a 10.8 with a little bit of extra weight, but that's what works for me, but it's not what works for everybody.
Cool. Shameless plug, just because we do have a serve workshop coming up in DC. If you are digging this instruction and you want to come do it with us in real life, you can actually come train with us in person. We've got a couple of these workshops coming up. The link that I'm throwing here, an easier way to get there, go to PlayYourCourt.com. The upper navigation bar, click Explore More, and you'll see a private tennis clinics link. Go there and check out what we've got going on. We do some cool stuff with the Bryan brothers if you want to invest in a doubles game. But we do have a couple serve workshops coming up. We need to update the dates here. We actually just figured this out literally this morning. But we've got one in DC on August 3rd, and we've got one in Virginia Beach coming up in October. So if you go in there and kind of poke around on those pages and read more about what's going on and click the link, it'll show you the different dates to choose from, and then you'll get on the phone with one of us and we'll lock you in if you're interested. So
yeah, that's in real life, not the AI simulation
right.
We have.
Yeah. You got to come to Washington, D.C. Yeah. That's during the City Opens if you want to come watch some great pro tennis and hang with this bearded, just
go on,
beautiful.
Yeah, keep it going. Let's take the next stop.
There we go. Moving right along. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to let you answer Lee's question. Do you have to deflate your racket?
No.
Definitely
not blown up.
Yeah, I don't know what that. There's no pressure gauge on there. I don't get the question. Lee, ask.
Maybe it's type.
Yeah. Ask us again. Where provide some clarity, and we'll come back to you. I promise. Speaking of clarity, can you clarify internal rotation of the non-dominant arm after impact in the palm position? So what Richard is saying is, I've cracked my serve. What is this guy doing?
Yeah, great question. So let's take a look at Mr. Taylor Fritz. This is from World Team. So the role of the non-dominant arm is important beyond just the toss. And what you want to make sure it's doing is it's tucking in. And so here you can see the arm has pulled in. And what this is going to do, this is really the cartwheel effect, right? So as the left arm is coming down, the right side will come over. This is what we refer to as shoulder over shoulder. You can see, let me get a different color here since the shirt is red. So you'll see his right shoulder is above his left. But what's important about the left side for Taylor as a righty is, one, it's stabilizing the body. So, you think about like a top spinning, it just doesn't suddenly get all wonky. But also as it stabilizes the body, as the left side slows down, the right side speeds up. Okay. And it doesn't matter like whose serve, the styles may change to some degree. Kyrgios will tuck his arm. You can see right there, he starts to tuck his arm. But just like Dominic Thiem, as he finishes, and just to be clear, like that is his hand right there. So you can tell that the arm is tucked. But then as he comes through, this is like a stylistic thing. But it does help for some. I do it to some degree because it helps balance at the end. It's going to be the same thing because no matter what, you have to tuck at some point. And if you want to finish with the arm kicked back, just more style than anything else. Some do, some don't.
Richard, hopefully that helps, my friend. I can't wait to answer this question. So Philip says, as an 83-year-old who plays age group tournaments, is it worth trying new tricks at this stage? Hell yeah. I mean, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can learn. I mean, there's going to be people, throw in the comments section if in the last 4 days you've added over 10 miles per hour to your serve. Like, that's the whole point of this. So the whole idea here is, do you need to go rebuild everything from scratch? No, but like, there's some really simple stuff you could take away from this challenge and just go implement it to your serve tonight that is not hard to sort of do, that'll add instant power. So yeah, if you want to hit the ball harder, yeah. Absolutely, man.
I think his name is
Age is just a number.
We had a gentleman that was
87.
Yeah, mid to late 80s.
Crushing
He was like
serve.
one of the he was like top 3 in the nation, and he came and worked with us for his age division. And he came out and worked with us on a serve, and it absolutely picked up some good MPH, like a good 10 miles per hour.
And injury prevention there is just as important as power, right? Like, I mean, like, look, as we get older, I'm feeling this even at 40. Like, things hurt worse when you do them wrong.
Yeah. I don't think I'm playing at 83. Good for you, Philip.
Yeah, way to go, my dude. Definitely get out there and keep working on your game. Learning new things keeps that age as just a number. This is going to be tough, Denise, without – remember the is it P and Keel? What's the name of that TV show? Key and Peele. Key and Peele. Every time I see Aaron or Denise, I'm like, D nice.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. I'm a child. I'm sorry, Denise. I tend to hit my serves long was likely the issue. So it's really hard. Like, the true answer is we don't know without seeing it. But some likely culprits, can I? Yes. I mean, it could be that you're throwing your toss too far behind you, and so you're reaching back and hitting the ball with an open racket face. It could be that you're just not getting to the top of your swing so that your racket face, again, is like clamped in here. The ball goes where your strings point. So in general, if you're missing deep, it's got something to do with the way you're either making contact with the ball, unless you're just decelling so much that it's –
Yeah.
But in general, if you're hitting the ball deep,
I think it's the material that we covered today. You know, a lot of times there's just not enough action with the wrist. There's not enough of this snap. And we hate to say, like, snap your wrist, because I don't really think that's – I think it gives the wrong imagery. But if you focus on getting the hand out more, I think that's going to help keep that serve in, right? We need a little bit more wrist action on the serve if we're consistently hitting long.
true that. Also, just remember, like, how small the adjust, like, depending on how long you're hitting, like, if you're missing 2 feet behind the baseline, I think a lot of people think it's this huge adjustment. It's like a tiny.
Yeah, we'd rather hit long than in the net, for sure. So good job, Denise.
Nailed it. Let's see here. Mark. Guys, the questions are flowing, and we've got a hard stop here in a little bit. So we're going to get to as many as we can, but we might not get all of you. I'm sorry. This is a great time to plug Play Your Court Plus, no?
Yep.
So a lot of you guys, and Mark, we'll certainly get to your question here. I'm sorry to just go plug mode again, but a lot of you guys don't know we actually run like a really large tennis company. Like, we're not just dudes on YouTube and teaching tennis on the internet. Mm-hmm. We've actually got a big old community that helps you find practice partners. So if you want to get out there and like work on these things, get some serves and returns in, that's literally what we do. We've got, I think, almost 30,000 people nationwide in there playing with each other every day. If you need a lesson from a local coach, we have 3,000 of them all over the country that will come to your local court and teach you lessons. And then we do a lot of stuff with video instruction. I said you can go to PlayYourCourt.com and just poke around. We have a lot of stuff. If you have any problems or things you want to accomplish with your tennis game, we kind of are getting close to doing it all. Retail store, we do live events, whatever you need tennis related, Uncle Nate's got you. All right. Mark says, coaches tell me my serve mechanics are very good and I have a live arm, but I need to stay sideways longer on my serve. Any advice?
Yeah, so when we're working with students that have a tendency to rotate too early, we really try to keep them more in a platform stance. If you're coming into pinpoint as the back foot pulls up, a lot of times the hips want to open too early. So keeping the back foot back really helps resolve this, especially if the spacing is correct with the feet. But this is a hip. This is definitely like a hip shoulder relationship, right? So practice just starting with the elbow back this way, right? Stay here, because a lot of times if I'm just a little bit behind me, it becomes too early for me to start opening early, right? So it's all about driving that elbow back in conjunction with the hip, the back hip. And I think that helps really stay sideways longer. We get this a lot, though. That's our go-to.
We see it a lot too. I mean, one of the biggest problems in power leakage is everything just sort of flopping open too early.
Yeah.
Cool. Mark, hopefully that helps, my friend. Greetings from Belgium. Do you have tips for when you are tense because of nerves and need to loosen up when you're serving? I got a lot of them because I have this problem in competition. So one of the big things for me, a lot of players, when they get nervous, they decelerate. And one of the easiest ways to make sure you don't decelerate as much is to keep that left arm or that tossing arm up in the air longer. When you create rear pelvic tilt, it's pretty unnatural to not just slingshot your arm. And so for most players, nervousness creates tension in the hand and it creates like the inability to accelerate through the ball. So relaxing your hands, the 3-finger drill, same concept, and getting that rear pelvic tilt by keeping your toss arm up as long as you can will really help. And also when you're nervous is having anything to think about. Like even if your serve is perfect, thinking about just, okay, I'm just going to throw the toss at 1 o'clock to keep my arm up. It's a nice distraction from I'm nervous, right? So giving yourself one of the pieces in your stroke, it shouldn't be swing thoughts. It should just be something to put in your brain that distracts you from being nervous. So those are my thoughts. What do you got?
Yeah, if you're good, I would add keep the racket out of your hitting hand when you can.
Points.
Yeah, 2 points, right? Like give the hitting hand a break. Shake the hand out. Keep it. Do everything you can to keep loose and make the connection between breath and tension. It's really hard to be tense if you're taking deep breaths and you're exhaling before each serve. If you're getting tight, just focus on an exhale where you pull in with the belly during the exhale. I know that sometimes people just exhale, but pulling in through the belly will help. Will kind of get rid of air trapping.
Do we have a YouTube video on this? Do you remember what that's
got a couple. Yeah.
If they search on YouTube, nerves.
Oh, yeah, that'll come up.
Yeah, go to our channel on YouTube. We got a couple of videos on this. Just search nerves or how to beat nerves, and you'll see some stuff that'll be good. Dedicated videos on it. Ricardo asks, when we be getting to the kick serve? Unfortunately, we won't in this particular challenge.
That's another challenge.
That is another challenge we should build. Learn a kick serve in 5 days. Challenge coming to you soon. No promises. Got to get Nate's approval. But, yeah, so look, the kick serve, the toss is different. The way you approach the ball is slightly different. All the mechanics are the same, but this challenge is about adding power. Kick does not add power, so it's sort of not the place for it. Our YouTube channel does have a ton of videos, Ricardo, for you on kick serves, though, so feel free to check that out. Can you talk about waist bend at the onset of the serve? Should you have a certain degree of bend, or is it more of a lean towards the front foot? Any relationship to added loading as you shift to the back foot? Let me go basic mode here, and then you go advanced mode. Is that all right? Sure. So, and actually, can you use that video? Can you just start from where her weight's on her front foot?
Serena doesn't. Serena actually starts from her back foot.
Can you give me any other human that isn't her or Pete Sampras?
Yeah, let's go.
It's like the only two people that.
Let's go to Lorenzo Mazzetti here.
So when I coach this live, will you zoom in for me? Let me take this off the screen so you can see what's going on. So 99% of Pro Tour players, there's a transfer of front foot weight, back foot weight, rocking back to the front foot and bending. So I'm going to slow down so that this really sticks. So when most people walk up to the line, they're going to walk up, and as you can see here, put all our weight on our front foot. So like this is so aggressive that the actual back toe is off the ground. So literally 100% of the weight as he's bouncing the ball on the ground is on his front foot, right? So all of my weight is forward on my front foot. When I'm teaching this and I'm trying to desynchronize it from the arm so that you can really understand what's going on, what I'll teach you next is that as the motion continues, all of my weight is then eventually going to rock back to my back foot. And you'll see this here, and that is when you're going to see this toe typically pop up. You can't really see it perfectly here, but that toe is, there's maybe space for like, will you back up, bruh?
Where you want it?
All the weight on his back foot. Keep going back. Stop right.
No, you can see a little bit of space there. That's what you're referencing.
Yeah, he's popping the toe, but let me do one of these guys. So what you'll see here, and bring that.
It's got to be up so the slide bar doesn't block it.
Okay, right there. Got it, perfect. So right here, you'll notice all the weight is actually in this back leg. So he could pick his front foot up here pretty much the same way he did before. Maybe it's 90-10, but all of the weight is here, okay? From here, what you'll notice, and this is how I really want you to think about syncing this up. Imagine that this hand has super glue on it, and when he brings that hand down to his thigh, it sticks. And so as his toss goes up, his leg is going to come with it, and those knees start to bend forward, and he's starting to sit down in a chair. So if we go through this, we walk up there, and as we're doing our ball bounce, we shift all of our weight to our front foot. As we go through the cadence of moving our arms and rocking our body back, we rock back to our back foot and put all of our weight kind of in our like back heel and butt cheek. For most players, that's going to create a pretty prominent toe pop where that toe lifts up off the ground. It's hard to see that here, but it is happening. And then as that tossing arm, as the guide, touches that tossing leg and starts to go up, imagine stick 'em on your hand that's stuck to your leg, and that's going to start to pull your legs into bending motion to get you sitting in this chair. So that's how you're going to sync all of these things up and think about it. You've got to kind of go out there and play with it and do it slowly to really figure it out and disassociate your hands from your legs to sort of really understand this. But that is the sequence of events. Did I just completely cover something we were going to cover tomorrow?
No.
Okay, good.
No, we covered this on day.
We already talked about it quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the only thing the first part of your question is like, it's all personal preference. I mean, Lorenzo gets really bent down to bounce the ball. Some players won't get this far down. Find another serve here. We'll just go back to Taylor. So is there a lean? Yeah, I mean, you absolutely have to have the he starts like Serena as well. But as you're bouncing the ball, here we go. Let's go Felix. So as you're bouncing the ball, like you can come as far forward as you want. I mean, for me, I'm just bent as much as I need to keep the ball coming back to my hand. I'm not all the way down like Lorenzo, but there isn't necessarily a relationship of how that affects going to the back foot. It's just that you start on your front foot and then you get this pendulum motion to where you're rocking that comes back to the right foot.
Yeah, I want to say I was going to say I don't want to say it's not important, but I've never actually seen a coach correct that as like a major problem that somebody was having on their serve. So I wouldn't stress too much about it. You know, do make sure that you're getting the shift correct of the weight and that you're just doing what feels most comfortable to allow that to happen. Let's see here, Maxine. It is nice to see that our camera is working today. Thank you very much. Yeah. You're very right. Yeah. We feel similarly. Let's see. A lot of comments, but we're only looking for questions right now. I've heard to select targets 2 inches or feet above the net along the back fence wall. Good advice to hit in the service box.
Heard to select targets 2 inches above the net along the back fence.
I think visual targets as well.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
Yeah. I've heard that.
I've never seen it, but that's cool. A way to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we'll put like the invisible square, 4 feet above the net and be like, this is, where our target is on like roundies, and then we'll drop that window for the serve. But yeah, anything that gives you a point of reference is great.
Visuals are huge. Gary, thank you for the kind words. Yesterday, you mentioned the name of somebody, tennis elbow and arm issues, and he missed the name. What is the name?
Another super yesterday mentioned a name of someone he followed. Athlean X, Jeff Cavalier. So if you go to Athlean X, I don't know how you spell Athlean. It's a kind of a funky name. ATHLEAN, Athlean.
Athlean.
Yeah, Athlean X.
XEX. Just
X. X. Yeah.
Okay. Gary, I'm sure, you know what? We got the Googles right here. I'm going to solve this for you. Like that? Athlean X Protein?
Yeah, nailed it. ATHLEAN.
ATHLEAN, and then it looks like X.com.
Yeah, but just go to his YouTube. Go to his YouTube and then search Tennis Elbow. And he had some stuff that I thought was really, really helpful on it.
There you have it. How do we access videos from the Player Court ID? Yeah, so if you bought the recordings, I assume that's what this question is. You'll log into your Player Court account. If you don't have one, when you bought the recordings, you'll have gotten an email that tells you to go create one. And then when you log in with the same email that you bought the videos with, all the videos will be there. And if you're in our subscription community, there's all kinds, like part of our $8 a month subscription community is just every single video tip we've ever filmed, cataloged but by skill level. So instead of you just going to YouTube and being like, me hit forehand harder, and the person having no idea how good you are, giving you random information that doesn't apply to your game. Like, we actually catalog our stuff based on where you are. A beginner needs way different instruction than Division I college tennis player. So you'll see that in there as well. But yeah, if you bought the recordings,
thumbs up.
You should have gotten instructions, detailed instructions via email. And if you can't find it, it's probably in your spam folder. And if you still can't find it, hit up email our support team, support@PlayYourCourt.com. They are awesome. They'll help you within an hour. Okay. Any tips for bending more on the side while reaching up to the contact point? In my recording, I tend to straighten my arm at 12 to reach up. You mentioned should be more at 1 to avoid issues.
You can make contact at 12. 12 and 1 is acceptable. Okay, I see what you're saying as far as like getting the body sideways. So let's take a look at Federer here. So as he swings up, what you're going to notice is right here is what you're referencing. So here he's at like 12:30 because this is a kicker, but this is the relationship with the shoulders and the head that we're talking about. And you can see that there's a tilt as he comes through, and the head is offset. Now,
let me hide this so they can see it a little bit better. Hold on.
Here's the beauty of it. If you get your elbow back to this position in conjunction with a good stance, almost inevitably as you swing up, whether it's more at 12 o'clock or at 1 o'clock, your body's naturally going to get more into this position. And the head will just tilt because it's along for the ride. It's really about the shoulders and the degree, the plane of the shoulders on the upward swing. But yeah, I really think if you get the other two right, this should be a byproduct. It's really hard to kind of think of like, how am I going to get this to come through correctly, right? I think maybe starting with the head up. So if you start with the head up, things will work a little bit more naturally around the head. It's just about getting the other fundamentals right, and you'll be good to go. But don't be afraid of 12. I mean, I hit my serve closer to 12:30 than I do at 12, and that's not wrong. I just have to be safe about the body position.
Yeah, as long as you don't pinch your shoulder in there and injure yourself, it's really not detrimental. All right, we've got time for one more here. Before we do that, it wouldn't be a Player Court live feed if Scott didn't plug something for sale 19 times to get you out of here. All jokes aside, if you've got any value from this in the last 4 days, if you want to watch this ever again in your life before we start charging $200 for a product, go here, the workbook, get the recordings, $49. It's down in the comments section, regardless of what channel you're watching on. Last question we're going to get to today is from William.
What's up, William?
To get my elbow, he can't hear you. I'll respond to you in real time.
Go on.
You chewing nice?
Yeah, go on.
Super professional. To get me calling you out for being not super professional is the silliest thing ever. To get my elbow up and swing more vertically, I know you're definitely answering this one. To get my elbow up and swing more vertically, I know I need to start with power from the hips and legs, but lifting the scapula raises the elbow also. And so thinking of doing that in practice may help with that. What do you think of that as a way to practice?
The scapula raises, the scapula. So what he's saying is like, so basically, can I lift the elbow up like this? Yes, as you reach the power position. So what I mean is like from your right to left, getting the elbow here, absolutely. Using the scapular to raise up the elbow.
Shoulder shrug.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, I worked in that for a little bit because I had a tendency to keep my elbow a little bit low. So from that position, I would get a much higher position with my elbow to ensure that even if it did drop, it would stay in an optimal position. But as far as firing up the elbow, I don't like the idea of necessarily like raising up here to get here. It should really be the byproduct of the hip, the foot driving the hip and then coming through. The reason being is if you lift the elbow with the scapular to come here, at this point, now you're going to have a lot of tension up in that portion of the shoulder, and you're going to put yourself in jeopardy of an injury. So yes to the getting into the power position and the elbow back, but not in climbing the elbow. I hope that helps.
Very good, William.
Great question.
That does it for you. That is a great question. That concludes day 4. Tomorrow, day 5, we will do a really nice recap, tie this up pretty with a bow for you, and connect all of it together.
Yeah.
Come with your questions. 12 p.m. Eastern Time, noon. Tomorrow, we will see you for our 5th and final day. I've kind of said.
Came and win.
Nate, do you want to tell them? You know, if only they could watch this over and over and over again and relive the serve challenge with these recordings for only 40. I'm sorry. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for our last day of our 15 miles per hour in 5 days serve challenge. Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us today. See you tomorrow.
Guys soon.
Take care.